Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com, and this is The Gutters, my audio journal. Hello and welcome. It is 2025. How are you? Wow, things have gone to shit, shall we say, politically in the United States. So, that's fun. Although I was not wanting to talk about this kind of stuff because I just can't. I don't. Yep, I went on a rant in the last Gutters episode at the end of 2024 where I announced my impending retirement. And so that's really what I'm here to talk about, is to give you an update on my life and some of the stuff that I have enjoyed entertainment-wise. And so I think maybe I'll just go there instead of where, for some reason, my brain just automatically jumped to as I started recording this episode. But first, I wanted to take a trip back in time to December 2023 and start there. I'll give you a little bit of what I did, a description of what I did on my trip to Vancouver, British Columbia. Yes, I went to Canada for the very first time. I am 56 years old, and I've never been to Canada. And I live, where I live in Idaho. That's really just a 3 or 4 hour drive north, I think, maybe. I don't know. See, what I've never done it, so I don't know. But while I did not drive to Vancouver, BC, I did fly there with my daughter and her husband because we were ostensibly going to see Taylor Swift in the final performance of the Eras Tour. And then we had a bunch of other things that we were going to do while we were there. And I'll just give you a quick rundown. So this was on December 8th when we arrived and to go to the concert that night. But we went and I just want to say, I don't want to tell you about all the food I ate, but I am going to tell you about some of it because we had dinner at the Yaletown Brewing restaurant. I don't know where exactly it was. It was somewhere near the venue where Taylor Swift was going to perform later that night. And I want to say they had good beer and the best salmon burger I have ever eaten in my life. It was delicious. So if you're ever in Vancouver, Vancouver, BC, you're like, I don't know if this is downtown or what. Anyway, it's near the I don't know, the BC Center. I don't know what it was called. But anyway, go to Yaletown Brewing and have the salmon burger. Tell them Eric from Longbox Review sent you. Anyway, so then we went to the Taylor Swift concert. And oh my God, I couldn't believe it. As we walked towards the venue, so the venue actually converges at the ends of 3 streets. Or I guess it's 2 streets, but imagine a T and it's at one end. Anyway, I don't know if it was the police that were, I think it was the police that were there directing people. Anyway, it was a madhouse, utter chaos. And you're supposed to be getting in this line because you enter at certain places and people were all confused. Fortunately, my daughter knows what the hell she's doing. And I just followed her, and I, at one point I thought I heard one of the police officers telling one of the concert goers, if you're in door blah blah whatever it was, you need to be here, and I thought that's what the door that we needed to be going in, and I'm like, okay, I guess I need to stand here and just kind of follow this crowd. But then my daughter's she grabbed me and she pulled me this other direction, and then we ended up going around and getting in this line, and that led us directly to the gate that we needed to go in. So my daughter's amazing. And I think I said this earlier. Well, I went with my daughter Brittany, who is a huge Taylor Swift fan, and her husband. And so the 3 of us went to this. I don't know if this was her 4th or 5th time seeing Taylor Swift. It was my first time live, and it was amazing. I'm a big fan of some of Taylor's later stuff, and I thoroughly loved it. They gave you, as you walked in, they gave you these wristbands that would light up, and everybody who's wearing them, everybody's colors were the same. It was all part of the performance, and so it made you feel connected that way. And these huge screens so you could see, because we were way up. Way up in that stadium. And so Taylor Swift was itty bitty down there as I was looking at her. So it was nice that she had like, I think 3 or 4 big screens. So everybody there could see things, more up close. So I thought that was really cool. And yeah, just it was a great performance. I have seen the performance because I went to the movie version of it, a couple years ago. And so I was already familiar with what she does or did. The only new thing was, 2 new things. Whichever songs she was going to perform, the secret songs that she did during the acoustic set, and the addition of the Tortured Poets Department set. But she pretty much sang all the songs that I love from her catalog. So I like that. It was just a lot of fun. And then afterwards, Brittany wanted to go to this bar for some drinks. And as we got there and walked in, she had already made reservations. We got there and walked in. We were the first people from the concert to walk in. And they know this because, we're all wearing, shirts declaring that. And, anyway. And they announced it. They are like, "You're the first," and woo. Anyway, it was neat. I never do things like that. So it's like whenever I go to a concert, it's like, oh my God, get me back to my room or home so I can go to bed. I never go out for drinks. But I was hanging out with my daughter and it was lovely. We got there and they had I had a beer. It was really good. I don't remember I think it was a sour. I like because I love sours, but I also tried my very first espresso martini. And it was interesting. It was good, but it was interesting. I don't know that I need to have another one. All right. So that was our first day there. Day 2, Brittany wanted to go to this particular bookstore. She's huge into reading romance novels right now. So she wanted to go there. It was nice. I should have gotten some things while I was there, but I didn't. But what I did do, and she had asked me if there's any place I wanted to go while we were in Vancouver, BC. And I looked up comic book shops in near where we were. And one of those was Golden Age Collectibles. This is the same name of a comic shop that we have in Seattle in Pike Place Market. I don't think that they are connected in any way. So I just thought that was interesting. The same name thing. Anyway, it was a lovely store. The people were very friendly. And I ended up buying a Superman t-shirt. It has Superman shield, and it's superimposed on that is the Canadian flag. So now I have a Superman Canada shirt, Great Britain shirt, thanks to Mike Atchison. And then several years ago at a Scottish Highland Games event that I went to, they had a Ireland and Scotland shirt. So is that it as far as countries? I feel like I need to collect all of the Superman t-shirts with the country flags or representing the country motif imagery on the Superman shield starting now. So I have to look into that. And then that night we went to a Christmas market that was nearby, and which my wife was upset with me. Not really, but she was upset with me, because she loves Christmas stuff and she wants to go to Christmas markets all the time, which we don't have where we live. We'd have to, travel 5-6 hours or more to go to something like that. And but it was great. I was mostly intrigued by the food and beverages. I know I said at the beginning I didn't want to talk about what I ate and drank, but apparently I'm going to. The tchotchkes and Christmas knickknacks and whatnot. There it was fine. Higher end than like farmer's market type stuff that I'm used to where I live. But it was nice. And so I told my wife that at some point in the near future, we are going to go to Vancouver, BC and go to that Christmas market together. And then the third day, our last day there, we went to Granville Island, if you are familiar with that, to do some shopping. We took an aqua bus across the river channel. I'm not sure what it was. Had lunch at a place called Granville Brewing. You might see a pattern here. My daughter and her husband and I love brew pubs. And I tried the peach sour, which was delicious. And I don't like peach all that much, but it was really good. And as we were walking around, I see this whiskey establishment, and I pointed out, and we go in. We weren't planning on going there, and we did. My daughter's husband decided to do a whiskey tasting. So he was like 4 or 5 little shots of whiskey of various types. And he was gracious enough to share with me, because I'm not a whiskey drinker, but for some reason I want to be. And so, but every time I've tried whiskey, it's like it's not my thing. Beer is my thing. But there were several. Well, I shouldn't say several. There were a few of those whiskeys that I was like, ooh, I could drink this. Well, I could sip this over the course of an hour. But yeah, that was nice. I also had an Irish coffee while I was there, which was also, I believe, my first time I've had an Irish coffee. So that was good. And then finally, and this is the reason why we stayed there for 3 days, is because my daughter and her husband are huge hockey fans. My daughter especially. And there was a Canucks game. They were playing, I believe, the St. Louis Blues. And so we went, and it was my first NHL game. And I've only been to, like, professional sports. I've only been to a baseball game, a couple baseball games, and a football game in Seattle. So, that's it. Unfortunately, the Canucks lost. Sorry, Canada. I feel like I have to apologize for my being there was the reason why they lost. No, but and then we flew home, and it was great. And Vancouver has this, at least where we were at, we rode the transit train. Great transportation, great walking area. Never felt at all like I needed to be careful or wary of where we were at or anything like that. So lovely, lovely city, at least the part that I saw. And so I'm looking forward to when I take my wife to Vancouver, BC. Okay, so what have I been doing since the new year started? As I said in my previous episode, and I mentioned earlier, my wife and I retired at the end of December. And it's now been, at the time of this recording, it's just been over a month, just a tad, a skosh, a touch over a month. And I want to say, George from Meanwhile the Podcast was texting me, and he made or he used a phrase in relation to asking me how retirement is going. And that is the source of the title of this episode, Man of Leisure. So I wanted to thank George for that. All right. Let's see. I'm just going to do some general comments about what I'm doing. It's not what I do every day or exactly the same way, but for the first couple weeks anyway, I slept in. I would get up anywhere between 8 and 9, which is late for me. I would normally get up between 5:30 and 6 every day, to get ready and go to work. And even on weekends, I would get up somewhat around the same time. But yeah, I was being lazy and sleeping in, and it was wonderful. I highly recommend it. Anyway, I'd get up, I'd make some coffee, scroll a bit on my phone, and or watch travel-related videos on YouTube, on my TV, because we got some traveling that my wife and I have planned to do coming up here just in a few months, actually. And then also I started working on my notes for the Legion Project with Peter, which we have recorded for issue number 49. If you're paying attention and want to read along with us, look out for that, because that'll be in the feed at some point. And then I spent a few days, I just talked about sleeping in and relaxing, but I couldn't help it. I couldn't help myself. I spent a few days cleaning my office to prepare for integrating a couple long boxes of comics into the collection, which is still pending because we went, after 2 weeks, we went to Vancouver, Washington to spend time with my daughter and her family. And we spent 10 days there. On the first weekend we were there, we watched the grandkids so that they could go to a hockey game. And then the rest of the week, my daughter's husband was away on a business trip. So we stayed and helped my daughter with the kids. And while I was there in Vancouver, I think this was Thursday, I met up with Damien, aka Sleepy Reader 666 on YouTube, and my friend that lives in Portland, where we met at I Like Comics, the comic book shop there in Vancouver. And then we just hung out, talked a little bit while we were at the shop, looked through the back issues. I think they got a $5 trade, a bunch of boxes, and then dollar back issues. And we just went through a bunch of that stuff. I was trying to find a couple issues of Packlist that I don't have yet, but they don't have it. So I'm still searching for those. But I did end up buying 5 trades. I put that on social media as well, but I'm looking forward to reading those. And then we had a lovely long lunch at a coffee shop nearby, whose name I totally missed. Even when we walked into it, I was like, I don't know where we are. I was telling my wife about it later, and I said, well, we got to go back there, but I don't know where it is. So I'll have to ask Damien. Damien, if you're listening, let me know where that was. Let's see here. We talked about comics, our families, retirement, other things. I think we spent like 2 hours there or something, just chatting, and it was great. I loved it. So we as we departed, we were talking about how we need to get together again, especially when my wife and I move to Vancouver, Washington. Maybe sometime later this year, we'll see. But because Portland has a bajillion comic shops, some of which Damien escorted me around some years ago, and I had an episode in the podcast feed about that. I don't remember when that was, but anyway, the last few days while we were in Vancouver, after my son-in-law returned, we drove to Great Wolf Lodge, so the kids can have some fun at the indoor water park and arcade. There's an interactive magic quest complete with wands that you can do, that my beautiful granddaughter Hadley was really into. So we followed her around while she pointed her wand at these things, and then it would light up and talk to you, and then you give you the clue to the next thing they had to go do. Anyways, it's kind of fun. Hudson enjoyed some of the games. He would. At one point, I was watching him while the others were doing other things in the arcade, and he would want to do this one game. Oh, it was one of those things where it spurts out water, and you're supposed to point it at the screen and hit the zombies. It was freezes the zombies, and they burst into ice cubes, I guess. And anyway, he started that game because he wanted to play it, and then after I swear it was 30 seconds, he just gets up and walks away. I'm like, what? You got to finish the game. But no. That was fun. It was funny that he was doing that, but a big waste of the credits that my daughter bought for Hudson, who's 4 now. He had his 4th birthday in early December. So then Kidder and I came home. I started working on more podcasting notes like this for the Gutters episode, also for my favorites of 2024. And also, I think I mentioned I bought a 3D printer. I bought a Bamboo Labs A1 Mini 3D printer last November during Black Friday week, and I've been playing around with that. When I got back, in earnest, I started printing a bunch of little things like an iPhone, a phone holder to spare your poor pinky from. Maddie holds her phone so much, which is, the problem right there, right? But she holds it so much, she's getting a callus on her pinky. And I found this model that allows you to hold the phone so that you're without your pinky there. So anyway, I did things like that. I don't know what else I've done. Mostly it's been stuff. A soap holder for my shower. My wife came out of the bathroom and said, "Really? You had to do that?" I'm like, I'm just looking for stuff that's useful. It's not just like the cute little fox model that I made, orange and white fox figure that I did yesterday, which took 13 hours to print because of the colors. I didn't realize that it was going to take. Well, I knew it was going to take that long because it tells you approximately how long it's going to take. What I didn't realize is how much filament it was going to go through to do that. Ay. Anyway, so I've been doing that. I'm mostly printing, like I said, mostly printing parts for the printer itself, useful things, little tools, a handle for it so I can more easily move it, things, just things like that. But I have other plans of other models I want to print. So yeah, that's been taking up more of my time. I should have been working on podcast stuff instead of 3D printing stuff. Also, as I talked about in that last Gutters episode, I have a whole list of things I want to do. I want to learn to play some music. I want to get back to writing, drawing and all these other things. And I feel like I'm going to be busier than I ever was while I was working and trying to do these things that, well, mostly it was just podcasting and reading comic books. But yeah, I don't know. At one point, when I started cleaning my office, Kidra was like, you don't have to do all this work right now. You have time. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't feel like I have the time because I have all these other things I want to get to that I've been wanting to get to for years, and I couldn't because I was too busy working and didn't have the energy. And now that I'm not working and I have more time during the day, there's just, I feel like I got to get stuff done. And, and not to mention the fact that we're going to be moving and I gotta pack up all these books, the 3 bookshelves that I have full of comic books and other reference books. I got to put those in boxes at some point. I don't know. I've got way too many comic boxes. Yeah, and not to mention my desk and computer and oh my God, it's going to be so much work. I don't know how we're going to do it in the time frame that my wife wants to do these things. Anyway, so like George did in that text he sent me, people are asking me, how is retirement? I've gotten a few messages, just a few. Generally, I would say it's weird being not at work, even now, a month into it, but not that weird at the same time. I feel like I acclimated pretty well. But I think it's mostly because I was keeping busy, like cleaning up my office and starting to integrate those comics into the long boxes, which I still have to do. I've been keeping busy, so I just replaced work with things that I want to do instead. We have, now that we're home, we've been going out to eat more, which that kind of worries me. We're spending more money on food than that we need to, so I'm always worried about money. My wife and I we've had this long-term argument, especially about retirement, the retirement funds, and she and our general savings, and I'd always say it's not enough. It's not enough until we went to our financial advisor and he said, "Yeah, that's enough. You could do it. You could wait and get even more, but you can do it now." So we decided to, but it's never enough. I come from a background where my family had very little money, and that's stuck with me all my life. It's like the security aspect of it is the most worrying thing about my new situation. So we have enough money. We do, but things could change. There's always contingency. I'm not Batman. I don't have all that money, But yeah, and and that's also the uncertainty of President Dipshit's whims and how that could affect our healthcare and our money in the future. Yeah, I'm now more worried than ever about that aspect. So we'll see. And God, how privileged do I sound right now? I'm sorry. Ay, ay, ay. All right. Well, that's kind of my life right now. How you doing? You got to let me know. You guys got to talk to me. Please. Maybe we could talk about TV or movies or podcasts, because I want to tell you about some stuff that I've watched and listened to recently. So first up is my wife and I finished watching The Gentleman. This is a show on Netflix. It's a violent comedy series. In fact, Netflix labels it as a comedy. And when I told my wife that, she's like, no, this is not a comedy. But it is funny. It is really funny. It's created by Guy Ritchie. So this is the general description of it. When aristocratic Eddie, played by Theo James from the Divergent movies, if you're familiar with those, inherits the family estate, he discovers that it's home to a huge weed empire, and its proprietors aren't going anywhere. And so he works that first season trying to deal with that situation. It's slick. If you've watched any Guy Ritchie movie, you know what I mean. And it's funny despite the blood splatter that happens. Did I say splatter? Spatter. Blood? Is it blood splatter? Anyway, I really like that first half for those reasons. But towards the end of the first season, based on where it's headed, I don't know that I'll watch the second. So anyway, I would have preferred, I guess, a different ending, a definitive ending, and that's it. Just have one series instead of continuing it. But whatever. I mean, it was good. I really enjoyed it. Next up is a more recent one that my wife and I started watching called The Diplomat, also on Netflix. Actually, all three of these TV series are on Netflix. This is an American political thriller created by Deborah Kahn, and it stars Kerry Russell as the diplomat to the United Kingdom who deals with an attack on a British ship, apparently by Iranians. And she doesn't think that's true, and she keeps trying to convince people and discover who is really behind it, and all the chaos and political maneuvering that involves with her boss, the Secretary of State, the President even of the United States, and her counterparts in Great Britain. So that in itself would be enough, right? But then she also has this husband who works behind her back at every turn to help her political standing. And so I don't know why she's with this guy based on all the stuff that he does and how he lies to her face about all this stuff. But it works. It's like watching an R-rated West Wing from an international perspective, and I'm all for it. We binge watched the first. Is watching 3 episodes in a row considered binge watching? I don't know. But we watched the first 3 episodes back to back because of the cliffhanger endings of them. It's like, oh my God, what's next? How does she do this? How does she get out of that? And anyway, we love it. And then finally, TV-wise, this is a romantic comedy called Nobody Wants This, created by Aaron Foster and starring Kristen Bell and Adam Brody, centered on the unlikely relationship between an outspoken agnostic woman and an unconventional rabbi. It's almost like the beginning of a joke, right? But we've only watched the first couple episodes, but it's very charming. Very charming. I'm not an Adam Brody fan, more or less, but he's remarkably engaging in the role as this rabbi who has recently changed his relationship status and is falling for this shiksa, played by Kristen Bell. And it's so lovely to see Kristen Bell back in a series again. She's quite luminous, I'll say. I've always had a crush on Kristen Bell, and she's just so good. She's quick-witted, funny. The character she's playing in this, and also charming, and you just almost immediately root for the two of them, despite all of the obstacles from their families. So I'm really curious where that's going to go. As far as movies, we've recently watched a few that I wanted to mention. First off is Zero Dark 30. I heard this movie about the search for and murder of Osama bin Laden that stars Jessica Chastain, which is the main reason I wanted to watch it. But I heard it was good. However, I was really let down by this and Chastain's part in it. I think this film falls prey to most biopic films in which certain beats have to be shown in order to get from starting point A to ending point B. And it just wasn't engaging because there's no emotional connection there. There's no weight to it. It's just finding this bit of information out and reacting to that. And then here's the next thing. And here's the next thing. And next thing you know, 10 years have passed. And I just don't like that in movies. Dune 2 fell prey to that a little bit as well. It's like, well, it's not as good as the first one. Just because they had so much plot and time to get through in the nearly 3 hours of Dune 2. Anyway, the final act showing the assault on the Bin Laden compound was, engaging and nerve-wracking, but, that was for different reasons. Anyway, successful for a different reason. But, most of the film just fell flat to me. And I think maybe now I confused Zero Dark 30 with Black Hawk Down, now that I'm thinking about it. So we'll see. I'll have to go watch Black Hawk Down. Anyway, Heart of Stone is the next movie that I really wanted to watch. This stars Gal Gadot as a double spy in this movie. Her MI6 team thinks she's just the hacker who doesn't go into the field, but she's really an uber spy working for a group of independent spies known as the Charter. And this was fun. I'm a sucker for female-led spy movies anyway, and this really fit the bill. She's great in the two main roles she plays in the two different organizations, and this could easily be a franchise of movies, and I think that's really what they're going for. But there's a lot of, some of the cool gadgetry and electronic stuff that they use in this was really neat to see. The action sequences were really well done. I read some critics' reviews of it, and it was not very well. It wasn't favored. I'll just say that, but I quite enjoyed it. So, and then another movie that I sort of enjoyed. We watched this while we were out in Vancouver at my daughter's house. This is Twisters. She loves the actor Glenn Powell, who co-starred in the movie. And I think the first movie that I remember noticing Glenn Powell was his role in the Top Gun sequel. And, and he just played basically a new version of Iceman in there. But, he was charming to some degree. He's still an asshole in it. And then I watched, Brittany made me watch another movie that he was in, a romantic comedy. And that's the one where it's like, oh, he's funny and he is charming. So, I guess I'm coming around to Glenn Powell, and he's the same in Twisters. First you don't like him, then he wins you over with his charm. And I'm kind of now wondering if he's being typecast. But anyway, like I said, my daughter really loves him. So that's why we watched the movie. I felt like he was better than the lead actress in the movie. I didn't really feel the emotional weight coming from her, despite the tragedy that she dealt with that is shown in the very beginning of the film. So, but anyway, really this movie is just Twister with a new cast and new spin on tornado tech. But, as a sequel, it was fine. I did some reading into it because I like to do this. I take a look at, well, how did this movie get developed? Who's involved and all that stuff. And it turns out that Helen Hunt was approached to be in the sequel, but she wanted to do a different movie that was rejected. And then ultimately she was no longer part of the project. And I actually would have liked to have seen her return in this movie in some capacity, or even, star as a lead in the movie. But anyway, that didn't happen. And then finally, I want to just mention some podcasts that I've listened to recently. First up is the West Wing Weekly Political Film Fest. So the West Wing Weekly was a show that Rishi and Josh did, covering all the episodes of the West Wing. And they did a few specials along the way, but they recently came back to talk about movies that have a political bent to them that they think West Wing fans would like. And so it's great to hear them back again to talk about stuff. And I'm finding that pretty much every movie they talk about is going on my to watch list because I haven't watched most of the movies they've talked about. So, if you're looking for, if you're a fan of political films or, like I said, films that have a political bent, have a listen to these guys talk about these movies, and you may want to go watch those. My favorite Star Trek podcast, besides, of course, Center Seat, my Star Trek podcast. God, that was so cheesy. The Inglorious Treksperts are back with their holiday special that they do every year. This year they're doing 10 top 10, or they did 10 top 10 episodes. Top 10 episodes about various Star Trek related topics like, let's see here, their favorite time travel episodes, comedies, romances. The latest one I listened to was about their top 10 holodeck or, holosuite episodes. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. I've only listened to 4 so far, but they're in my to listen feed list, and I'll get to those eventually. The next show I did listen to, this is Meanwhile at the Podcast. They did their celebratory episode 300. So a milestone episode from George, Rodney, Kristen, and Rich. This was just like their episode 200, where they did a game show style, hosted by Greg Schiegel, where he quizzes the hosts about various things, and they would gain points or lose points for that matter. And you'll need to listen to find out who comes out the winner. However, I will say, and I did, I think I skeeted. I think I messaged them on Blue Sky about this, saying that Kristen should have won because I awarded her 10,000 points for her political poem. And you'll have to go listen for that, what that was and why I awarded her the winning 10,000 points, like I'm part of this. And anyway, congrats to the team on reaching 300 weekly episodes. Weekly. So we'll see what happens with episode 400. And then finally, Sean Ross, podcast co-host for such shows as Secret Wars and Beyond, the Squadron Supreme Cast, and others, has launched a new show on the Fire and Water Network called Peace, Down and Bound, a Wonder Woman podcast, where he and guests discuss the 1987 post-crisis Wonder Woman series helmed by George Perez. If you're a Wonder Woman fan or a George Perez fan like me, or like me, if you're a fan of Sean's as a podcaster, you need to listen to the show. The first episode, he had a guest on, and they dived deep into Wonder Woman history and lore, and had a more academic conversation about Wonder Woman. And then the second episode was setting up the stage for where Wonder Woman was at the time of Crisis on Infinite Earths and the series ending and how, what that meant. And then the third episode, they start, he and the guest host started talking about Wonder Woman number 1, number 2, etc. So he's going to go through that series, and it's been delightful. And that caused me to reread the first 3 or 4 issues of that run. I have the issues in my collection. I also bought the wonderful hardback Wonder Woman Omnibus featuring the George Perez issues. And so I've been meaning to reread that anyway. And so this is a great excuse for me to do so. And I can follow along with Sean and his guests as they talk about these things. So another great new show that if you're interested in comic book podcasts, to listen to. And there we are. The first Gutters episode of 2025. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing with this, given my new state of affairs. Probably save up, I'm thinking quarterly I'll do it, perhaps. But I've got a bunch of other things I want to do podcasting wise, and all the travel that my wife and I are planning to do. So we'll see how it goes. I think 2025 will be a bit chaotic and inconsistent as far as podcasts, but I will try to make it consistent as much as I can. And then maybe I'm thinking ahead in 2026, and maybe things will be more stable. I don't know. What the hell? We could have World War III in the next few months, and all of this is done. We're just done. Jesus. End on such a downer note. God. All right. Well, despite all that, thank you for listening. If you'd like to send me any feedback or questions or comments, whatever, you can email me at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can send me voicemail or text messages at 208-953-1841, or you can even message me on Blue Sky at longboxreview. I hope you have a good 2025, a prosperous 2025, and things are well with you. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.